Hello, extraordinary child of God. If you're looking to transition your life from where you are to where God wants you to be, then you, my friend, are in the right place. Now, if this is your first time visiting my channel, be sure to go ahead and hit the subscription button as well as the notification bell so that you don't miss another episode. Now, do you like lifting weights and building muscles? Well, I actually do. But let me clarify that liking something and actually doing something are two different things. Because while I enjoy working out, I don't actually do it enough. But in those times that I do find myself working out and trying to build up my muscles, I've noticed something. That generally, after my workout, my muscles feel tired and weak. And it's really to be expected because after you've done 30, 40, 50, or 60 reps of a particular exercise, it's natural for your muscles to hurt. But did you know that sometimes our spiritual muscles operate in the same way? And this can be dangerous because the enemy likes to attack us when our spiritual muscles are weak. So stay tuned because we are going to talk about how you can stay strong when your spiritual muscles begin to get a little weak. Today, I want to talk to you about David's muscles. Now, if you're a part of our extraordinary community, then you know that the last few lessons have been coming from the books of 1st and 2nd Samuel, and today's lesson will be no different. Now, one reason that I personally admire David is because he had muscles. David was a mighty warrior. He was a type of man an enemy soldier would not want to come face to face with because if they did, they were guaranteed to lose their life. But David's physical muscles weren't the only muscles that David had. David was stacked with spiritual muscles. Now, what is interesting is the fact that spiritual muscles grow the same way that physical muscles grow, and that's through exercise and use. And from the time that David was anointed to be the next king of Israel, the Bible records many instances in which David had the opportunity to grow his spiritual muscles, because spiritual muscles grow through the exercise of faith. And David had to exercise faith when he went up against the giant Goliath. He had to exercise faith every time he went to war and when he was living a life on the run from King Saul. Throughout all of these experiences, David was exercising faith and seeking God for guidance. But in 1 Samuel chapter 27, we find David's spiritual muscles getting a little weak because verse 1 says, "And David said in his heart, 'Now I shall perish someday by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than that I should speedily escape to the land of the Philistines, and Saul will despair of me to seek me any more in any part of Israel. So shall I escape out of his hand.'" The verse is a clear indication that David's spiritual muscles were getting a little weak. It's obvious David was getting weary of being chased down by Saul. He had done so many reps of faith that now his muscles were sore, and as a result, David was not operating in faith. Now remember, God told David that he would be the next king of Israel, which means that God would not have allowed David to be killed at the hand of Saul. So David's statement alone lacked faith. Furthermore, the Bible does not tell us that David inquired of the Lord as he had done in the past, prior to making a decision. And when spiritual muscles get weak, instead of trusting and relying on God, we tend to take things into our own hands, which is why we find David making the decision to go live with the Philistines, the enemies of Israel, God's people. And let me tell you, that decision, which was made during his moments of spiritual weakness, tends to be always the wrong decision, which it was in David's case, because it was never God's plan for David to find refuge with the Philistines. But David was not the only man of faith who found his spiritual muscles experiencing weakness. The same thing happened to the prophet Elijah. During the reign of Ahab and Jezebel, Elijah had found himself exercising so much faith that he probably couldn't even count the amount of reps he had done. But not long after one of his greatest workouts, when God rained down fire from heaven at Elijah's request in front of all the people, including the false prophets of Baal, Elijah's spiritual muscles became weak when he found out Jezebel wanted him dead. His muscles got so sore that he just said, "Let me die." Now, I got to pause here because I can just see God like, huh? Really, Elijah? Seriously? But the fact is, we do crazy things when our spiritual muscles get weak and we don't do anything about it. Which is why it is so important that we learn to properly care for our spiritual muscles during their times of weakness. Now, don't forget that our spiritual muscles operate in a similar fashion to our physical muscles. And when we exercise our physical muscles to the point of weakness and soreness, there are 3 things that it's recommended that we should do to help speed up the recovery process. And those things are, first, get proper rest. Second, stay hydrated and also maintain a healthy diet. These three things are said to protect against muscle fatigue and weakness and ensure you have enough nutrients to promote healthy muscle function. So when it comes to our spiritual muscles, you must first be sure that you're getting enough rest. And by rest, I mean that you must make sure that you are resting in the arms of Jesus. When our faith gets a little weak, it's easy to worry and to fret about what's going on in our lives, which is the total opposite of resting. Now, the second thing you have to do is stay hydrated. Jeremiah 17:13 says that the Lord is the fountain of living waters. You need to go to God and get filled up. And you do this by reading His Word and communicating with Him through prayer. But remember, a little sip won't do. You've got to get filled up for your soul to be truly hydrated. And finally, you have to maintain a healthy diet. What you put into your body affects your muscles. Every true bodybuilder knows that junk food is out and healthy, lean food is in. So you got to cut out the junk. The junk of the words of faithless people, the junk of negative media or entertainment, and the junk of anything the devil sends your way to destroy your faith. Get rid of it. Now, the beautiful thing about muscle growth is that just because you experience weakness doesn't mean you lose all the muscle growth that you've obtained up until this point. No, not at all. Because if you properly care for your muscles during their time of weakness, you'll be ready to put in some more reps and grow those muscles even bigger and bigger and bigger than they ever were before. So, what do you guys think? How are your spiritual muscles growing? And what things have you done to care for them during times of spiritual weakness? Now, if you are interested in this week's worksheet, you can click the link below to download it. Now remember, if you're already on my mailing list, no worries. The worksheet has been delivered to your inbox already. God bless you guys. And remember, we got to stay spiritually strong. I mean, they're all right. But my spiritual muscles, they can be like Arnold Schwarzenegger if I put in the work. So remember, you guys, to like, share, and subscribe if this message touched you. And most importantly, remember that you are, I am, we all are extraordinary through Christ. See you next week.